Good evening, Knicks family. Welcome to the show, The Queen's Court. I'm here with my first male guest, Tony Crowe from Knicks and Bruises. From Knicks and Bruises. Sorry about that. When you live, things happen. Um, Today we're going to talk, a little bit about the Olympics. Like always, every week I do a little Olympic update. Then we're going to get right into it with free agency rumors. I'm interested in Tony Crowe's opinion on some of the rumors that I've talked about already. So I'm not going to have much to say on that. We're going to get into power forward and center options for the Knicks in free agency, as well as the draft. And the last thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna make two picks for the Knicks, two bigs, in the draft, and then Tony is gonna do the same. So let's get to it. Oh, don't forget our draft party, July 29th, Thursday in Atlantic City. We're going to do a live podcast. You'll be a part of the live audience if you decide to join us. $25 VIP tickets, 5 to 8. That you get the buffet, you get the free beer, you get an opportunity to hang out with us. And if you have any opinions, you get an opportunity to come right up to the mic and tell us what you think. And if you have any problems with my takes, you could talk to me about it. Right then and there. I'll be there. Tony Crowe, Knicks and Bruises, Gmo, Legion of Knicks, Sim, of course, the entertainer. Um, and I'm missing.
Julito.
Jolito. Thank you, Tony. You already an asset to the show. Appreciate you. All right. You want to say anything before I get into the Olympic news?
Yo, Black, it's time. That's it.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
And appreciate you having me on, of
Just
course.
briefly. I'm sorry.
I say I appreciate you having me on, of course.
Yeah, of course. First of many times. I hope appreciate your spirit and how you so calm when you talk about these things. All right, get into Olympic news. Luca Vildoza, who the Knicks signed, Frank Ntilikina, who will be a restricted free agent, is pretty much the only Knicks participating in the Olympics. Um, Tony, real quick, what's your take on Randall not being invited? Now, there was some thought that um, he chose not to. He was invited and chose not to accept the invitation because, him and his wife are expecting. But then it came out that that really wasn't the case. He was never even offered an invitation, even when Bradley Beal and Kevin Love withdrew for different reasons. What do you think about that?
I think it's more motivation. More motivation for Randall. I think he was snubbed. But if I want to play devil's advocate, one of the things that USA team is missing is length, and he doesn't necessarily provide that. But
Hmm.
two guys went out. I thought they had room for two more guys. So ultimately, I think he was snubbed, and I think he was snubbed even before the two guys went out. Um,
So you think he should have been part of the original team?
over Kevin Love, absolutely.
Yeah, I spoke about that last week. I didn't quite get it. They were, talking about his Olympic experience. He played 25 games. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was due to injury, but someone brought up that maybe he wasn't injured, that Cleveland was just going in a different direction and didn't want to play him that much, which is the reason why he only played 25 games.
Yeah,
Who
but
knows?
either way you look at it, you in the way I look at it, you got to reward the guy that just got most improved. Because I mean, Jaron Grant is on that team as well, right?
Jeremy Grant, yeah.
So that you know what I mean. Like he could have had that spot. You know what I mean? A guy he beat out on most improved. So
Right.
ultimately, it was a snub, but motivation. Let's see how he come back next year. I'm looking for more improvements. So
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. I wanted your opinion on this. This is the last thing, and then we'll move into free agency trades and rumors. The U.S. team is 2-2 in exhibition games out in Las Vegas. Um, why do you think they're struggling, if you want to call it struggling?
Um, I think we'll agree as we spoke a little bit off air. Um, I think it's a combination of a bunch of things. One, the lack of playing time or practice time together. So they're really just throwing some guys out there that haven't played together and haven't really built chemistry. You could take it a step further that a lot of those guys didn't even play together before. In previous Olympics, it was some reoccurring guys that at
Right,
least two or three guys already played together on the Olympics 4 years prior. So,
right.
for the majority, these are a lot of first time Olympians. So it's that. I think the world is getting better. So
Yeah,
I won't say
yeah.
they're catching up, or they're slowly catching up. They've been catching up for years slowly. And every Olympic, you see more and more NBA players on the other countries' teams.
Right,
So
right.
um,
Yeah,
those are the two big reasons for me.
yeah. My point exactly. My point exactly. I do want to bring this up. Um, just the Olympic schedule really quick and chat. Bear with me because it's not going to be perfect, but I do want you all to to see this. The United States plays their first game versus France um, Sunday the 25th at 8 a.m. France and FIBA Frank, right? So you'll get a chance to see the United States Olympic team versus France. You'll see Frank. Then we'll play Iran on the 28th. We'll play Czech Republic on the 31st, and then if they win enough games, if they advance, then the quarterfinals, semifinals, and then and the gold medal game. So let's see how that works. Even though they didn't invite Randall, I still want the United States to win. No bad blood.
Hey, can I say
All
this
right.
though? I also think that coaching might have played a role into it. Um,
Hmm.
and as simple as I think they didn't establish a go-to guy. Like if I was coaching that team, coming right into the first practice, first game, first everything, Kevin Durant, this is your show, and then
Right.
let everybody fall into line. I think a lot of it was oversharing, over nobody wanted to take that lead role. Maybe thinking maybe they underestimated the opponents a little bit, but they
Right.
also didn't have defined roles. And these other teams, they have roles. They know who's playing when, who's the go-to guy, who's they have everything established. So that's one of the things that we have to work on as the United States.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Let me give a shout out to the chat before we move on. I want to get your opinion on some free agent rumors. I've said my piece. If you've been following the Queen's Court, you know how I feel about most of them, but I do want to get Tony's opinion. Shout out to Chris, BX Mel, Senga Waldron. I hope I said that right. Geraldine MacGyver, appreciate you. Ed Santana, appreciate you. Mark Boyce wants to know what we're talking about today. The big topic, I've covered the guards, I've covered the wings. Today I'm covering the bigs, the power forwards, and the centers. I'm covering them both in free agency in terms of backing up Mitchell Robinson and possibly playing with them. Splitting time. We'll talk about some options. We'll talk about a trade option as well, and then we're going to talk about the power forwards and centers um, in the draft, and Tony and I will make our pick. If we were picking for the New York Knicks, which two bigs would we pick to help the team? Josh, appreciate you. Don Nix, I'm hearing Dame trades all over stuff.
Mm.
Listen, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be mad. if the Knicks trade for Dame, but you already know I have a problem with his window. That's the only issue. I don't have a problem. I think the Knicks will be able to build a team around him. It's a short window, right? A 3 or 4 year window to get it done. I'm not worrying about the contracts. I'm not worrying about who they would have to give up to get him. I'm just worrying about he's 31 years old. That window is really short, and you gotta basically scorch earth to try to, put a team around him. But that being said, as we're moving into free agency, that was actually um, one of the guys I wanted to talk about. So we can actually move into that. And he was the third guy on the list, but since it was brought up in the chat, what's your take on bringing Dame to the New York Knicks, Tony?
Again, man. I feel the same way as you. I'm not gonna be mad. Um, but I know that that just means there's a lot more work to be done. You know what I mean? And it's. I'm not saying I favor him not trading for him, but not trading for him.
Hmm.
A lot of the building blocks, the foundation is already we already see it, so we know
Hmm.
more or less what we need to do to move forward. Trading for him, we're talking about probably having two players on our roster and having to fill out the rest.
Right.
So so I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
is it
The only
possible?
thing
Yes, but it's going to be a long road to success, and a lot of things have to be done right after that.
a lot of things have to happen. Josh on one of the shows said that if we do a 3 or 4 team trade, those trades can get complicated. But if we do a 3 team trade, that the Knicks wouldn't have to give up um, as much. I don't know. When I've seen 3 team trades, I've seen teams give up just as much, but instead of it going to one team, it's kind of split between
Hmm.
2 different teams in terms of what you give up. But um, he did have a good point. I don't remember exactly how he broke it down, but the way he was talking about it, the Knicks wouldn't have to give up as much if it was a 3 team trade.
The,
Um,
the the only
before
way
we
I
get
see that,
into
I'm sorry.
say
The
that again.
the only way I see that happening is if Portland values draft picks more
Right.
so, or if it's something where they're getting yeah, like what are we gonna do? Eat a contract from a third team that comes with a first round pick, but that first round pick goes to Portland. You know what I mean? That's the only way I could see something of that
Right.
magnitude working, and then still taking on Dame's contract. That makes that even more difficult. But
Right.
it'll be tough.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I do feel confident about is our front office, right? I feel very confident in our front office that they're not going to make a trade for Dame and not feel confident that they can put a team around whoever's left. Right? So I think that I feel confident in that. I think right now the Knicks, if I had to guess, have multiple options on the table in terms of which way they can go to help build this team. Um, I do think, like we talked about on your show a few nights ago, I think they're trying to build on last year. I don't think that they're looking to go with a youth movement. Not to say that we're not going to have young people on our team or young people in the rotation. I believe we will, but I don't think that they're looking to go with a total youth movement. I think that they're looking to build on next last season, which is kind of difficult when 60% of your roster is not under contract. But what's your thoughts on that? You think they're trying to build on last year, or you think that they may be going with a youth movement?
I think they have no choice but to try to build. Like you said, when we spoke on my show,
Hmm.
we overachieved. We reached that fourth seed. They don't want to take a step back. So even no matter what we do, it's gonna be a difficult task to duplicate what we had. And it's going to be even harder with youth. We're going to need some experience, and that's why I made my statement about Lowry and DeRozan. That's a lot of playoff experience. That's championship experience. That's guys that we could probably afford, um, and we could fill our roster up after that. Um, we got two guys that we could go over the cap to keep, and then we got exceptions. So to me,
Right.
that's the easiest way to stay the course and still be able to improve with the young guys that we have, and watch them grow.
Right. Right. I just want to shout out Barry Neal, who said, "What's good, chat? Am I the only one worried about Randall's play being sustainable enough to just dump Obi?" Well, I mean, even if even if Randall's play is not sustainable, I don't see Obi being able to step in at least next year and be able to fill that role. I think Obi is probably a few years away from being able to be a starting power forward on the New York Knicks. And I think, listen, the Knicks are smart enough. If they trade Obi, they know they have to bring somebody in to play behind Randall,
Mhm.
right? They're not going to just leave him out there. And Randall, even if he doesn't play at an all NBA level, he's still going to be a very solid player for the New York Knicks. What's your take on that, Tony?
Again, I agree 100%. I think it's two. It shouldn't be one question. It should be two. And like you said, I think, or to answer, can Randall sustain it? I'm looking for him to actually improve. I think 100% he could sustain it. I'm curious to see with his work ethic how much better he can get. So that's where my
Right,
mindset is. So sustain it, yes, absolutely. And then again, even if he didn't, or um, you think about it, a lot of the time Obi got last year was out of necessity. We didn't have another option really to put at the four to give Randall a rest. Maybe we could have used Taj a little at the four, but at this point we was losing, centers were down. So you know what I mean? So he
hmm
had to play that backup five. Um so Obi has a lot to prove, I agree, still to earn
right,
the more minutes or a definite backup four role. But I also do have faith in Obi. I think whether he's on this team or not, I think he's going to have significant improvement next year. Um I've been saying that from the beginning. He just seems like the guy that needs a year under his belt to figure things out and then come out with a
right.
bang.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the biggest leap, but I said this before, he has the longest way to go. So I wouldn't be, surprised if he made the biggest leap. Um, Shout out to Mama said, "Don't trust you" for the super chat. We should build on what we got, add what we need, and see where it goes from there. I agree, but what do we have? We have six players under contract from next year. So yeah, we don't have a choice but to build on that. But if what you're saying is we shouldn't swing for the fences for a superstar, I agree with that tack, but that's only because I need to see Randall another year. I need to see him another year so that I know, for sure what we have in him, and I need to see him in the playoffs. He could be MVP of the regular season. I need to see him perform in the playoffs for me to feel confident that we have one before I'm going out and giving up assets to get somebody to play with him. So that's just me. I'm not sure what the Knicks, if these rumors are true, the Knicks are going to try to bring in a high level player right now. And if they don't, it's probably because they just weren't able to get it done. Um, I this moves right into our next free agency trade rumors. I've talked about this before, but again, I'm interested in Tony's opinion. So Chris said Steph. I don't think we dump Obi unless the player is right. Tony, is Sexton the right player? In answer to Chris' comment to trade Obi for, or
um,
to include in a trade for Sexton.
I'm not throwing them in there, but if that's who they want, I'm not opposed to it. So I'm not just trying to give Obi away. If we could package a pick, a future pick in Knox, if we could make a package just off picks, I'd rather go those routes first. And believe me, that's tough for me because I was one of those Knoxers from the beginning. So for me to, for me to give up on the kid who I still think has potential, I just
Right.
hate to admit I was wrong about his motor. It seems like that's really what it is. But as far as Obi, man, yeah, if they want him, if that's what it takes for Sexton, I'm including him. Sexton is proven. We know what we're getting from him. Um, Anybody that argues that it's empty stats, um, I'm not gonna blame him for losing. I'm gonna say that he did what he did, even though they were losing. He didn't pack it in, not a play. You know what I mean? This guy goes hard every single play. Give him a winning circumstance and see how he shines. So yeah, I think that's one of the moves I'm definitely all for.
So, Chris, that's your answer. Tony says, he not offering Obi, but if Obi has to be in the trade in order for that trade to happen, if I'm hearing him correctly, he would put him reluctantly, he would put him in the trade for Sexton. Did I get that right?
100%. It's not a deal
All right.
breaker, but
Right, right,
but it's not my
right,
preference.
right. I mean, listen, I'm not I don't have any problem giving up Obi in any trade. I got to be honest about that. And that's not that I don't believe that he will eventually turn out to be a very good player. He very well may be. Um, I just feel like from what we expected from him at that eighth pick to what he actually showed us, this is a 23-year-old guy with the developmental trajectory. So basically, to me, he was supposed to be somewhat NBA ready. And what we got from Obi, we could have got from somebody that was 19 or 20 years old. Now, I'm not saying that he's not going to grow into being a very good power forward in this league. He very well may. But if this season is any indication, it looks like it's going to take him some time. And if we can get somebody in that can help us now, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not crazy high on Sexton, especially as a lead guard or a primary ball handler. But if Randall is still handling the ball, if RJ is still handling the ball, I don't have a problem with Sexton. It's not like he's going to be the only one handling the ball. He shoots well enough that he could play off of those guys. And because I respect Tony and a few other people who are high on Sexton, I did go and look at more film. I've seen him play multiple times, and I've seen him, you know, drive and make a pass. So it's possible that he could do that. I would just need to see him. I would just like to see him do it more often. And then again, maybe on a team that demands that, on a team with better players, maybe that's not um, even an issue. But I have no problem with his motor, his energy level, his defense, the way he brings it every night, his ability to score. I'm just thinking as a team, I would like a little more playmaking. But if he's able to bring that, I'm good with it, and I'm good putting Obi in a trade for anybody that's gonna make us better this upcoming season. We check in with the chat. Anything else on Sexton before? Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask. Well, all right, Sexton. Just let's remember where he came from in college, who coached him. Avery Bradley. Avery Bradley. That's his name, right? Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson.
That played with the Celtics.
that played with the Spurs, the little general. That's the
DeJounte Murray? Oh,
uh,
Avery Johnson. Yeah, yeah,
Johnson.
yeah. The point guard. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No nonsense coach, defensive coach. I think he would fit in like a glove. And I wouldn't necessarily bring him in to be the starting point guard, but if because that would happen probably draft night or something. That's before free
Mm-hmm,
agency. You know,
mm-hmm.
if we don't have any other options after free agency, it's still an upgrade from last year. So that's the way I'm looking
Oh,
at it. You know what I mean? But ideally, we still bringing in a vet, and he could come off the bench, start when needed, etc. I got a question about Obi for you. Um,
yes.
do you feel like, let's say hypothetically, we had traded Randall away, prior to the season, once we drafted Obi, um, and now he was just, I'll say, like given the keys, like most guys picked, in the high lottery. Do you think he would have been as disappointing
Um, I couldn't hardly hear you. There was some static. You said if we traded him before the lot before after we drafted him, if we traded him.
if we traded Randall after we drafted Obi? The keys was given to Obi. Now, granted, I know our season would not have been what it was this past year, but do you think
Oh,
Obi?
had we traded Randall and Obi got those minutes?
And yeah, Obi got those minutes. Maybe not the role, but the minutes. Do you think he would have been as disappointing?
I think so because when I look at Obi, it's not. I'm not. I'm disappointed because of his stats. Yes, but I'm disappointed because there was a bigger role for him to have and he just wasn't able to have it. Like people would say, well, how do you expect him to average more points if he's only playing 10 minutes a game? But he was only playing 10 minutes a game because of where he was developmentally. Like there were more minutes to be had. He just wasn't able to snatch them, so to speak. So that's part of it. But I think the other part of it is when you watch Obi, especially in the beginning of the season, things tended to come together a little bit toward the end of the season. You could tell his footwork wasn't there. He couldn't play. He couldn't hold his own in the post because he wasn't strong enough. He was an okay rebounder. He didn't seem to have a good feel for the game. And this was not just like the first few, like for a significant stretch of the season,
Mm-hmm.
he just didn't look.
I,
He,
I I agree with you.
he didn't look great, you know? So it's that. It's not just the stats. It's just how does he look on offense? How does he look on defense? What's his feel for the game? What like all of that made me feel like he has a ways to go.
I agree, but my perspective and the way I thought about Obi coming into his rookie year, I knew
Hmm.
like the things he's real like bad at. I knew that those were the things he was going to be bad at. You know what I mean? I knew those were the things that were going to be a work in progress. The fact that I honestly believe he got better as the season went on, honestly, in all aspects of the game. He didn't look lost anymore. He
Hmm.
was finding positions rather than, to make up for his lack of lateral movement. He would just get to the spot first, and things of that
Hmm.
nature. So he improved a lot on those things, which I thought would probably take longer. And then
Right.
offensively, the reason I give him the pass is coming out of his role in from Dayton, where pretty much everything's being run through you. So
Hmm.
you kind of, it's not even about mistakes because I think he has a good basketball IQ, but the ball was in his hand.
Hmm.
To go from that role to like the total opposite spectrum of the, it was a big adjustment for him. So I think a lot of it was really him trying to fit in, just trying to fit do the role that he was asked to do. I don't think a lot of people thought we would see him in the corner shooting at three as much as we did this past season. But I don't think that's his fault. I think that's the scheme that he was put into. And I like the idea that he was put into that scheme, or that role, because I think if we put the ball in his hands, I think we'll see a tremendous improvement anyway. But the fact that he's learning to play off ball and play a role, I think that's going to be a greater attribute moving forward in his career. You know what I mean? It's a lot harder
When you
to
say put
that.
when you say put the ball in his hands, what do you mean?
I mean, we could run the offense through him. He's not ready to be a full time starter, go to guy, or all star. But I think for him to thrive, the ball has to be in his hand. He can make reads out of the post, even though a lot of people, and I think he has a decent post up game. He didn't really use it much, or get the opportunity for it. But I'm only going off of what I saw in Dayton, the way he
Yeah,
played.
yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
And he didn't get that same opportunity at all. Like, and I'm not knocking the coach for it, because, like I said, I think in the long run that's going to benefit him a lot better. It's harder to move from being a go-to guy, superstar, or whatever, into the role player than it is to learn the fundamentals of being a role player, and then you already have that other stuff in your game, and able to use it when the opportunity comes. Um, yeah, that's my take on Obi.
Yeah,
I still
yeah.
have a little bit of faith in him. I think opportunity is the biggest thing for any player's career, and and,
I, I,
and
I think I think we can agree to disagree on that. I think it's more than opportunity. I think he has to work on his game, and I think even when he was in the post, he wasn't able to hold his own. He just didn't have the strength to hold it, even against guards.
he
He
had
just
he had bad
wasn't.
moments.
Yeah, yeah. I would say more than moments. But
I
he
mean,
could not back down a smaller guard, and I think this is the other thing. When you're when you're in college and you're athletic and you're stronger than those guys, you can push them around, you can bully them, you can get to your spots. But when you're in the NBA, those guys are just as strong. So now your strength means nothing. Now when you're
mhm.
down in the post, you're not going to overpower anybody. You're going to have actual moves down there. Right? Because it's different than when you can just back somebody underneath and turn around with a half hook. If you have the power to do that, fine. But if you don't have the power, now you have to actually have moves down there in the post. And then a few times he was down there, I saw the guards able to push him out. But listen, he's going to get stronger. In no way am I saying that he's not going to be a very good NBA player. For me, it's all about timing. Is he going to be that within the time that we need him to be it? Now, like you talked about the other night, if he's just playing 15, 18 minutes, behind Randall while he's continuing to grow, that's totally, that's legit. That's fine. Um, back in the day, players came in, those rookies came in, they played behind those vets until they were able to command that spot and take that spot. So I don't have any problem with Obi playing 10, 15, 12 minutes and earning his stripes to the point to force the Knicks to make a decision. I'm good
I
enough right now to start in this spot. You're going to keep Randall there or you're going to trade me, but you have to make a decision.
even with us agreeing to disagree, I think we're agreeing more on this whole, like, the overall aspect. Because I'm not one of the fans that feel like oh Randall is hindering Obi's opportunities, and we can't
Right,
have
right,
both,
right,
like that. Like, that's not my mindset at
right,
all. I agree with
right,
you.
right, right.
Earn your minutes, improve, and everything is gonna work. What they say, the cream rises to the top. So, you know what I mean. If you rise, that's because you the cream. So I agree.
All right. Before we um Move on. Let me just check out the chat. Eddie C, appreciate you. Everybody says if Obi had a point guard again. I asked who was his point guard at Dayton. I don't really know. Um, Shout out to Saucy Thanos. Sergeant Nix, aka G Man for Life. Appreciate you. Be sure to check out his show, The Part Couple with Cornerstone Kev on Blanche Tears channel. I'll be checking you out. I can't, sometimes I'm listening. I can't really be in the chat, but good show. I appreciate you guys have a good dynamic going there. Alton Lee, appreciate you. Always in the chat. Appreciate you. Obi needs to work on his ball handling. It will allow him to be more comfortable. Yeah, yeah. I would love. I don't think he has the feet for it, but if he can ever learn to play the three
Mm.
and have that type of versatility where he could play behind Randall and beside Randall, that would be great. But I don't. I don't see that. But he could prove me wrong.
At this point, for him to play the three, I think all he has to do is be able to defend the three. I don't think offensively his role would change much. Like Tibbs really
Right.
likes him shooting that corner three.
Right.
So whether he at the three or the four, that's probably where he's gonna end up at anyway. If he could guard the three, I think we'd see more
Right.
minutes with him and Randall together.
Right. That's a good point. He needs to learn how to defend it. If he could defend the three, that would be good enough. Barry Neal, I agree with you. We gave Frank and Knox, I guess he's saying, mad time to develop. I think Obi deserved better. Randall picked it up, so we don't really need. I mean, listen, I don't have a problem letting Obi develop, but this is what I'm saying. If you get an opportunity to bring in a player that can help the Knicks now, you can't just say no. We're gonna let him develop because we gave Frank and Knox 3 or 4 years. We got to give Obi 3 or 4. You get an opportunity to get Sexton, and again, I'm not super high on him, but if you get an opportunity to get Sexton, you got to take it. I don't think you can say, "Oh, let's not bring this point guard in here who." If he becomes an equal playmaker, the way he can score, can actually be an elite point guard in this league. If he develops that, you can't say no, and he's only making $6 million, and you can move off the contract if you need to. I don't think you could just say we need to develop Obi. Let's not take advantage of that. I think you have to. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think you have to.
Yep. And
All
trades, man, you got to give up something you like to get something you like more. That's what a trade is about. Is you don't usually give away garbage to get something that you know what I mean that you
right. Yeah.
actually want.
I love the Nick community though. We gonna give up Frank, Knox, the 19th and the 21st pick for AD. you know, you got to give to get, and the more established a player is, the more you have to give up. Listen, if you're a GM and you got to give up Dame, or you got to give up Beal, or you got to give up Levine, you're gonna want a budding star in return. You want to be able to show something for what you're giving up. All right. Let's move on. Let's get into the free agent center options. Now, I think the Knicks have their work cut out. The front office have their work cut out for them. I don't envy the position that they are in right now, having to build a team, build off of last year. We only got 6 players under contract. The team we're trying to build on doesn't even exist, right? Because you know, six of the people that was in that 10-man rotation are not signed. They got their work cut out. Mitch is was injured most of the season. I think he played 30 something games, or 20, high 20s, or
I think it was in the
low 30s
30s.
in terms. It was in the 30s.
I believe
Okay.
so.
So he's coming back. He's only making $1.8 million next season. So that really helps us as far as the cap. I'm sure the Knicks I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe they offer him an extension. I'm not sure. So we're in a situation. Noel will probably not be back. He probably played himself into a multi-year contract. I don't know if the Knicks. Well, Tony, let me ask you. I have my own opinion on it. If Noel has played himself into a multi-year contract, let's say $8 to $10 million a year, would you pay him that to come back and back up Mitch?
Yeah, he's definitely worth it. So I don't see why not. But at the same time, you could probably get a JaVale McGee for a fraction of that and not have to offer him multi years. So um I mean I don't know. Is there a big difference in the two of them? Um, as far as what you're gonna get production wise, I think you still get the rim
Right.
protection. I think you might have a little bit better hands with with Javel. You know, championship
Hmm.
experience, etc., and just a cheaper option. So maybe you go that route if you're using that money for some other players in free agency. Now, if you're not using that money and you want to reserve some for next year, maybe you reward them and give them a 1 year deal at more money,
Hmm.
10 million. You know what I mean? That's or something
Right.
of that ass. Just come back again.
Yeah.
But that's my option. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think the chat is split. May 4th. Strong statement, May 4th. Mitch should be backing him up. Noel earned his money. Uh, Jet Jet Life for life. Yes, I'd pay Noel that to stay. Um, Sergeant Nix, aka G Man for life, and Howard, meaning the White Howard, is also a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Percival 007, appreciate you. We needs rebounds. Yeah, we do. Um, okay, okay, we'll do. Josh said to
Check the
check the
next
Knicks
Twitter.
Twitter.
I was just
Okay,
reading
okay,
it. And let me
okay. You
shout
gonna
let
you
me
gonna
shout
check it?
out let me shout out your
Yeah, go
chat
ahead. Yeah,
too
shout out who you want to shout out.
because I seen a lot of love being spread out there. I'm just shouting out the chat in general. Like seriously, you
Mhm.
guys are awesome. So salute to y'all. Keep commenting. Um, but yeah, let me see what Josh is talking about, and you could continue on. I'm listening and I'm paying attention.
Oh, you shout. Oh, I thought you wanted to shout them out live. Okay,
No, no, not
all
not
right.
individually. I meant everybody. Like the
Oh,
chat is
okay.
popping.
Gotcha, gotcha. JaVale McGee is a good idea. Canal ban lawyer. I hope I said that correctly. Um, I don't have a problem letting Noel go. I really don't. I think there was parts of the seasons where he played very well. There was a part of the season where he played like a defensive demon. He was just all over the place. But I would like somebody with a little more sure hands. I would like somebody, that rebounds, a little better. For a backup role, I don't know if I want to spend $10 million a year. I don't know what he's asking for, 7 million a year, 8 million a year. I'm not sure what it is. Um, but I think that money could be better spent for somebody with a similar skill set that we can get for lesser money. That's my opinion. However, if the Knicks bring him back, I wouldn't be mad. I mean, the thing about it is that when Mitch was healthy, you Mitch go out, you got the same type of player coming in, So that really helped us. We lost some, but he more than held his own. What do you think about, and this is for the chat too? What do you think about Hassan Whiteside as a backup to Mitch? He's an unrestricted free agent. I think he's 31 years old, and he's about a year or maybe two removed from a very good season in Portland when I think he averaged, over two blocks a game. We're not going to ask him to do a lot, but what do you think about him backing up Mitch?
Um, I'm not opposed to the idea. I think I would probably go with Javale as a first option. Um, Again, championship experience. Not saying he had a big role, but he had his moments. I think he's definitely a guy that got better as his career went on.
Mhm.
Whiteside, he has all the talent, but um, I don't want to take a risk with the attitude. Maybe this is not the team all the time to potentially have a bad locker room guy, and I'm not big on speculating on that, but I've heard it about him
Right.
on numerous teams, not just one instance. So he got the talent.
Yeah.
He'd probably be cheap, but it's a risk.
Right. DJ Shuttle said Tibbs would not like Whiteside. I mean, I know. He said Whiteside got uh, his head in the cloud. Um, Alton Lee, guys like Whiteside and Howard are guys who would come in practice and think they can start and disrupt the locker room. Maybe. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
you know what
just
I'd be
think
worried.
that.
I'm sorry. I'm worried about
No, go
him.
ahead.
I'm worried about his influence on a guy like Mitch. You know what I mean? Compared to what JaVale could teach Mitchell Robinson, as opposed to what Whiteside could teach Mitchell Robinson. Now, on the flip side, maybe he knows, I might not have a spot in this league. People get kicked out
Hmm.
the league quicker and quicker, and for
Uh,
littlest things nowadays. So
right.
maybe he knows this is his last opportunity, and maybe he could teach Mitch something about making mistakes and things of that nature. But I don't know that he's there. You know what I mean? And that would be up to the coaching staff to figure out, is he at that point of his career where he wants to turn it around now.
Yeah, yeah. I just think that the Knicks culture, the Knicks coaching staff is so strong, especially if they bring Taj back. I can't really see one player coming in and disrupting the culture and what the Knicks are trying to do. That being said, six of those people are no longer on the team, so the Knicks are going to have to kind of find new chemistry. And so it's not like, you have this strong team returning, everyone's returning except one or two guys, and you bring in a so-called head case, right? Um, but when most of those guys are not there, and you have to form chemistry all over again, it is, you don't know, you know. Um, we don't know
Uh,
if this team that's coming in is going to have as good a chemistry as last year's team. Go ahead, Tony.
well, at the very least, or on a positive side of that is we'll have a full training camp this time around. You know what I mean? So they'll have the same opportunity to build the same type of chemistry or a better chemistry than the opportunity last year. Granted, even like if D Rose comes back now, he's here on a full season, not in the middle of the season. So I think things like that, it's going to be a whole new roster, or a half new roster. But I think the
Hmm.
the the opportunity for that same type of chemistry, same type of magic, is there. But there's also that opportunity on the flip side. Two things. One about Whiteside. Remember, he had them issues in Miami too, under a Pat Riley organization. Um, and Spose, and like the same type of mindset and coaching uh system that we have right now. So if again, it's all about, did he learn from it? Because if he could be a problematic in that system in Miami,
Right.
like you could be problematic pretty much under the best coaches.
Anywhere.
Um, and then Josh, I'm
That's
assuming what Josh wanted us to see was a proposed 3-team trade where we would be receiving Dame Lillard. Uh, the Warriors would be receiving C.J. McCollum, and the Blazers would be receiving. I'm assuming this is a sign and trade for Alex Burke. They'd be getting Andre Wiggins. They'd be getting Kevin Knox. They'd be getting James Wiseman. They'd be getting 20 a second round pick from us in 21, a second round pick from us in 23, and 2021 first round pick. And it was successful on the trade machine. That is a very fair deal, I think. I mean,
Yeah, I
if
didn't. You kind of going in and out. Who would we be giving up? Who would be the main pieces we would give up?
Alex Burke, Kevin Knox, and 2 second round picks and a first round pick.
Who's doing?
So
I mean, yeah,
so
of course I would do that.
it works, but in this particular scenario, I believe the Warriors are giving up the most and losing the most. Because they're giving up Wiggins and essentially they're giving up Wiggins and Wiseman for CJ.
Right.
If the Blazers took that trade, I would even be willing to throw another first round pick to the Warriors just to balance things out because I feel like they're
Yeah, like
losing.
I'm like, who would like? If I'm the Knicks general front office, I would hop on that in a minute. That doesn't seem like a lot to me at all.
Yeah, we're not
It
losing.
works, but
We're not
who's
losing
doing that?
anything. I mean,
Hmm.
I can see the Blazers taking that trade. Um,
Wow.
Essentially giving up Dame and CJ, but getting back Wiggins and Wiseman. They probably gonna need more than one first round pick, but whatever picks they want, if they're getting their quality players from another team, I guess I can see the Blazers. They maybe wanting a couple more picks, and the Warriors. Like we're the big winners in this.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe have to give up Mitch to the Warriors as a replacement. But I see where he's going with it as far as the 3-team trades. Um, that's not bad. That's not bad. Outlook.
Oh, that's excellent.
I'm gonna send it to you, and then
That's
maybe you could
okay.
modify it somehow to see where it would be
All right.
acceptable on all parties.
Right, right, right. I mean, if I'm the Knicks, I would do that trade for sure. I mean, for sure. You getting Dame, you're not hardly giving up anything. Picks, Knox, and Burks,
In a sign and trade.
definitely. I would I would do that yesterday. Um, you know, yeah. I mean, if they accept it, let's rock with it. Um, all right. Um, somebody mentioned. I don't want to scroll back, but somebody mentioned, and I forgot to put him in here. Can somebody in the chat, if you could let me know if Richard Holmes, who I like, Sacramento, is he? I think he's a restricted free agent. I really like him. Um, and also in the chat, do you think if we were to sign Richard Holmes, if he's restricted or even, I think he's restricted. I don't think he's coming in to play behind Mitch. Like I think if you sign Richard Holmes, you're signing him to play instead of Mitch, and maybe you flipping Mitch for another asset. I don't see Richard Holmes playing like he's a starting caliber big in this league.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know either way if he would start over Mitch or not. But the beautiful thing, one thing that I love about Mitch is
Hmm.
he's ready for competition. You know, he wasn't giving up his spot for Nerlens, and neither was Nerlens. He wanted the starting spot, and I like it. I like that competition. So whoever they got, whoever we bring in as a center, backup or otherwise, I'm happy to see them fight for it and it not just be given away. And I think that's the MO of the front office. And I love the fact that Mitch don't back down to that.
Right, but you can fight for it if you bring in somebody like Noel. If you bring in, for example, if the Knicks were able to somehow wrestle Jared Allen out of Cleveland, I don't really see where that's a I don't even see where that's a battle. I think Jared Allen is a better player than than Mitch um at this point. So it's a battle depending on who you bring in. If you bring in somebody comparable, then yeah, it's a battle. But if you bring in somebody better,
I think
is it really?
I think he's shown more, but I also think I'm just saying Mitch ain't gonna just give it away. As I'll take the bench role. He's gonna try to earn that starting spot. Um, Obviously Noel
Of
wasn't
course he's
playing the
gonna
way
fight.
he wasn't playing the way he was in the beginning of the year that he was when Mitch went down. Otherwise, I think you could argue that he would have been starting over Mitch. And we're also forgetting at the point of Mitch's injury, his last injury, with his first injury, because he got hurt like coming right back from the injury. So the
He
what was
did.
it? The
He did.
wrist before the wrist injury, he was on a stretch. He was on the best stretch of his career. You know what I mean? So it we forget it because it's like out of sight, out of mind. But he had a nice 10-game stretch right before he got hurt.
Right. I think what I like about, listen, Mitch, for all of how a good a center he is, never averaged 10 points a game, never averaged 10 rebounds a game, right? But what I like about Mitch is his pick and roll defense. I think that is, to me, what's his, well, I don't want to say his biggest asset. His rim protection is good as well. His ability to get offensive rebounds, I appreciate that as well. But his ability to switch on them guards on the pick and roll, that is priceless. And if they don't go with Mitch or they decide to move on from Mitch, I really hope they would pick somebody to replace
Comparable,
him if they choose to go in that direction,
comparable. Yeah.
that can switch on these smaller guards in the pick and roll. We're gonna
And,
need that, and that's what Mitch brings for
and
us.
Steph, not just the pick and roll, um, offside, like the way he runs out on the
Offside too.
perimeter,
Yes,
runs out on the
exactly.
perimeter. I tell you, not this past year, but the season before that, I was making a bet, like a hypothetical bet. Like Sim, I bet you he's leading the league in block 3-pointers. Like not from centers, but
Yes.
just in general. And sure enough, it came out that he did. Like that's
Yeah.
phenomenal to me. Like to that one play where he fell on the floor, got up and ran and blocked the 3-point shot. I'm like, I ain't never see that from a Nick in all my life. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like Mitch. I like Mitch a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm if you haven't noticed already, I'm
I
okay
know.
with trading anybody as long as long as it's an upgrade.
Yeah.
As long as it's an upgrade. And I'm not saying that, I try to be very fair in terms of what I think a player brings to this team. Mitch switchability in this current NBA is priceless. So if the Knicks are gonna move off of him, hopefully whoever they bring in has to be able to bring us that. Now, what about Miles Turner? If there's been rumblings for a few years. They have a new coach now, so I'm not sure if that's still the case. Carlisle is now in the coach of the Indiana Pacers. But if they decide to break up Sabonis and Miles Turner, what's your take on Miles?
I like him. I have no quarrel, no beef with him. For a while, I actually was one of the people that preferred him over Carl Anthony Towns. Um, I mean, just as an overall cheaper option, does some of the same things. Probably, definitely a better defender. So, yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. Um,
Yeah.
what
The only Go ahead.
it's just tough, like watching these playoffs or just the playoffs the past couple of years. Like, what is his price gonna be worth the value as far as like what his role is gonna be um on a let's hopefully potential championship team. You know what I mean? Like, how much usage is he gonna get? I mean, he does everything though, and he shoots the ball well. He shoots the free throw well. So I don't really see him being a liability.
You talking about
But
Turner?
yeah, I don't. Yeah, like I can't think of like a weakness in his game per se. I guess the
Hmm.
question is how what's his ceiling? You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
is is has he reached his ceiling? And is that's fine if he has. That's a great place to be for a 10, 15,
Hmm.
12-year career. But I'm interested to know, can he get better? But I like him where he is.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point. Mitch has. You can argue that Mitch defensive upside is higher. But would you take somebody with a little lower defensive upside if they also give you offense? And I haven't looked this up as far as advanced stats, and if anybody knows, please help me out. How good is Turner in the pick and roll? That's so important. I want to know about his switchability. But I like the fact that he can hit the three. He didn't really shoot it at a really high clip. I think it was in the low 30s. But I think that would improve with the Knicks because one thing about Tibbs, you're not going to be just shooting threes all over the place. You're going to have your specific spots where you get your shot. They're going to be high percentage shots, and those are the shots you're going to take. Period. So I think he will be able to stretch the floor for us. I like that. He's a rim protector as well. Uh, if there's an opportunity to get him, and I think he's on a reasonable contract, anywhere between 17 and $20 million a year. I think he has maybe 2 more years left. Um, I would do it. I mean, somebody said in the chat, I forget who it was, the best ability is availability. And Mitch has been, injured, throughout his short career. I'm not saying that's going to continue, um, but you know, he's missed games. Not now this year he missed the most, but there's been other years where he's missed games as well. So I don't want to say he's injury prone. I don't want to go that far. But remember, we're not going to have Mitch for 100 for $2 million for long.
Hmm.
So at some point, you're going to have to start thinking, we got to sign this guy to a multi-year contract. How much are we willing to pay? What's his upside? What have we seen? Are we willing to invest that type of money in someone we haven't really seen with this coaching staff for that long period of time? Do we want to go with somebody that we know better, that's more of a known quantity? These are the decisions the Knicks is going to have to make because you're going to have to pay Mitch.
So let me ask you this: would you rather restrict him this year and see what the market dictates for him, or
Say that again.
would you rather restrict Mitch right now this summer and see what the
Hmm.
market dictates for him, or would you rather keep him on that 1.8 and take the risk of him uh pretty much commanding whatever it is he could command if he plays?
Command and free agency.
Yeah, like
I mean, I think if they do that, they can still sign him in free agency. They'll just be competing with other teams, and at least you'll know what his market value is. Um, that's a very good question. That's a very good
because
question.
I think the smart thing to do is restrict him now. Um, you taking a chance of losing him, but you're really not. You because no matter what, you have the option to match.
Right.
So it really becomes your choice once you figure out what the market dictates. Next year,
Right.
next year you have no choice. He has to want to be with you, and then you have to agree on the numbers. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
Me personally,
Understood. Yeah.
I would restrict them this summer while we have the cap space. Granted,
Hmm.
it's gonna cut into the cap space, but you know what I mean. I'd rather do it now than him outplay uh what we want to pay him. Because I don't.
Right.
What do you think he could
What would you
command
pay
right
him
now? Oh, in the open market, or what would I be willing to match?
both?
um, if I was negotiating right now, I honestly I'd give him 6 million. You know what I mean? Like that's a significant raise. It's telling you that I believe
Hmm.
in your value. Um,
Hmm.
and honestly, I don't know how much higher above that. Like, I guess the max I would match is 10, but that's I would be hesitant in that, but I still think he could outplay a $10 million contract with a couple post moves. You know what I mean? Or unleashing a jump shot. Those like
Right.
one of those two things would make him a $10 million player, right? You know what I mean? Off the bat. So I'd offer
Yeah.
6 and I'd match 10. And I'm saying multi years, but yeah.
Yeah. I agree with Canal Ban lawyer. He said Mitch not taking 6 million. Um, listen, a rim running, shot blocking big who could defend on a pick and roll. The Knicks are gonna have to be willing to pay. He's gonna command more than 10 million, I think. Um, um, I don't know. I think it's gonna start at 12. I think a
Open
contract is gonna
market.
start at 12, like a 3 year, 36, the minimum. I think it's gonna
Open
start at
market
12
though. Like that's you saying that's what we would have to match minimum, or you saying that's what he wants?
on the open market. Yeah,
What was Jared Allen's
yeah.
contract?
Say that.
What's Jared Allen making? Do you know?
You going in and out. You asking me what would I pay him?
No, Jared Allen.
I don't. Jared Allen is going to be a restricted free agent.
Uh,
I would pay Jared Allen 12 million. I think Jared Allen is much more dynamic than Mitch. You know, I mean, when they traded Drummond, I mean, I guess Mitch had a game like that too. I think that was the game he went down. He had like Allen had like 20 points, 17 rebounds. I mean, he was all over the place like a demon. I don't know. I'm just high on Jared Allen. And I like Mitch, especially his pick and roll defense. That's important. And I'm a little higher on Jared Allen though. I feel like if we get an opportunity to get him, to get him. Um, Eddie C said Allen will receive at least 15 million per.
mm.
I wouldn't be surprised.
You don't think considering he had better point guard play around him that helped his development, if you will.
The fact that he had what?
Better point guard play around him, more facilitating.
More facilitators around him.
Mm-hmm.
It could have. I'm not sure Mitch lack of development on the offensive side, at least in a game. Like we see his videos where he looks pretty okay handling the ball, shooting from three, putting the ball on the floor. I don't know if if that's because he hasn't been around facilitators. Like that's why his game is not there.
Or better question: do you think it was smart for the Nets to let him, like, to get rid of him? Like that was mind boggling to me.
Yeah, it was because they didn't have a choice. Listen, you get an opportunity to get Harden, you got to go all in. Basically they pushed their chips to the middle of the table. Um, and they felt like they would have a better chance with those three filling around them than two and Allen.
But what does Allen make? I think he was included in that trade and just went to Cleveland.
Yeah,
It was a 3-team and Cleveland. Okay.
yeah. And I'm not sure what Cleveland's role is. How they got Allen, was it just to help facilitate the trade from a money um perspective? But yeah, they needed to move Allen in order to make it work.
Mm. I think at that point I would have moved someone else. I would have moved Dinwiddie or somebody.
They may not have had a choice.
Hmm.
Like that other team may not have wanted them. Dinwiddie was injured too. It's going to be
Yeah,
hard to move him.
that's true.
Yeah, yeah. Let's before. Well, let me just go quick. I'm gonna check in with the chat, but just really quickly, if you have any before we move into draft options, do you have any thoughts on DeMarcus Cousin, who's an unrestricted free agent, or Drummond, who's unrestricted, playing behind Mitch as a backup?
I don't know if Drummond would play behind Mitch. I don't know
That's
if
true. I
I don't
forgot
know.
about.
I don't know if he would like want to. And
Hmm.
technically, I think he might be better, a better player than Mitch at this particular point. Um, so the team may start him. Um, but I've always liked Drummond. At this point, now it depends on what he's talking money wise. I would have grabbed him before the Lakers did. Um, Cousins, he's another one. I mean, I like Cousins. I take him. I don't think he'll cost much. Um, even with his problems with the refs and his attitude perception, that's one guy that I know his his issues are based off of uh caring and caring about you know winning and things of that nature. He's not a bad teammate, and you know what I mean. He might get bad technicals or things of that nature, but that's because he's emotional and wears it on his sleeve. So I'll take that any day.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, I think the concern that I have in the chat is on it too. Um. With both of them, it's just their defense. Listen, we need rebounding. So I do like Drummond in that respect. Just to go into a game and know that, you know, we're not going to be out rebounded. Um, but defensively, neither DeMarcus Cousins can't guard, you know,
Somebody said a tree.
fives or fours. I mean, unless it's a post up five. If it's a five that's post up, I think he's strong enough to hold his own down there. Drummond on the pick and roll. Mm, yeah, I think that's going to be. I think that would be a mess.
Josh asked
Let
about
me shout out
cancer.
the chat before we move to the draft. Yeah, what you was going to say?
Josh asked about cancer and his
I,
cancer.
I I would prefer Drummond over Cantor. I like Cant. Well,
It's a cheaper
from a
option.
rebounding, I don't think Drummond is going to cost that. You think Drummond is going to cost a lot?
At least 20. And I think cancer's gonna be about half of that.
Well, if the money is, I like the rebounding aspect of it. I like the rebounding aspect of it, and especially Cantor with the offensive rebounds. He just has a knack for the offensive rebounds, and he wasn't when he played this past season with Portland. He wasn't as bad defensively as he was when he played with us, and maybe that was just we were just a bad defensive team. Um, he didn't look at that bad. but I still would like somebody that can defend the Packer role. I'm pick and roll. I'm just partial to centers that can switch. But I wouldn't be mad if they brought in DeMarcus Cousins. I wouldn't be mad if they brought in Drummond, if they brought in Cantor. One thing I know about Tibbs, you know, he's going to position the defense. If you're not a great one-on-one defender or on-ball defender, you can be a very good um, position defender. Hit those rotations, know your spots, get there quick, anticipate where you need to be, and get there. So I think that whoever comes to the Knicks, their defense is going to improve. So I wouldn't say I would rather a Dwight Howard, McGee. I would love McGee.
Me too.
Um, you know, Cheap options that can play behind Mitch and still protect the rim, rebound. But let me see what the chat has to say before we move into the trades. I mean, excuse me, the draft. Eddie C. Luca Garza is Luke Cornett.
I agree.
Wow. All right, we're going to talk about him. Eddie C. McGee is a great option. May 4th, Kelly Olynyk. Didn't he snap Kevin Love? Oh, arm in the play. All right.
I like Olynyk too.
I like Olynyk too. He would be able to stretch the floor. He
Stretch the
came from
floor.
Miami. He understands defensive principles.
Yeah, he's not gonna necessarily block shots, but he'll draw charges. He'll be in the right position to make a shot difficult or contest it. And like you said, stretch the floor. So yeah, I like him.
Okay. Jarrell Parker, Kelly Olynyk, why he is not in the discussion. He just became part of the discussion. Listen, you guys in the chat, y'all can shout things out as well. I make a list. You can't, the list can't be, 10 players long, but if there's somebody out there that you think we should talk about, put it out there. Alternately, Cantor is Luca Garza. Maybe defensively, but not offensively. Luca Garza, and we're going to talk more about him, the center out of Iowa. He can hit the three, and I think he's more polished in the post than Cantor as well. All right. Let's get into the draft. Let me just pull this up. Now, we'll talk about it. Let's talk about, so I looked at a lot of bigs. Let me just give you a list of who I looked at. Some of them, well, let me just preface this by saying I don't think there's great value at the 19th and 21st pick for a big. I think if the Knicks are going to get a big, they probably should just trade down into the late first, early second, maybe use that 32nd pick on a big. There's some bigs that I wouldn't trade up for any of them, but let me get into it. So I looked at Kai Jones out of Texas. I looked at Isaiah Jackson out of Kentucky, Charles Bassey out of Western Kentucky. I looked at Alperen Sengun out of Turkey, Day'Ron Sharpe out of North Carolina, Luca Garza, JT Thorne, Isaiah Todd, which is the 6'10 stretch four out of the G League. And then I looked at Usman Garuba. Tony put me on to Isaiah Todd out of the G League. I didn't have him in here at first. And then also Usman Garuba, who I call the defensive demon, 19-year-old out of Spain. So those are all the ones that I looked at and studied, and this is how we're going to talk about them. All right. So we're going to talk about rim runners first, right? So we're going to talk about Kai Jones. We're going to talk about Isaiah Jackson. We're going to talk about Charles Bassey. Now, Kai Jones has been marked as high as number 11 and as low as 23. I did not have him actually up here because I didn't think he would be in range for the Knicks. The asterisks are those ones that actually there was some mock drafts that had the Knicks picking this player, so that's where the asterisk is from. So there
Mhm.
was a few mock drafts that had him falling to the Knicks, or at least even past the Knicks. So that's why I put him back here. Isaiah Jackson out of Kentucky, Charles Bassey. He's been marked to go in the second round. I like Bassey, um, but let me just get off of this and we could talk about him. I could pull this back up later if I need to. All right. So out of the rim runners, uh, this is my opinion, Tony, and I'm so interested in what you're going to say about this. Kai Kai Jones out of Texas and Isaiah Jackson out of Kentucky, I think they're marked too high, in my opinion. And I think that's my bias. My bias is I'm always looking for players, at least for this Nick team, that has a high floor. Even if their ceiling is not super high, they have a high floor. They can contribute right now. Kai Jones, to me, he's a rim runner. He can, he's good on the lob, as all rim runners are. He can block shots. He's uber athletic, which means a lot to some people, not too much to me, unless you have skill to go with it.
Mhm.
Um, but one thing about him, more so than the others, is that I've seen him handle the ball in transition. I've seen him, shoot the three a little bit, put the ball on the floor a little bit. So he has probably a little more offensive upside. I don't think he's going to be there when the Knicks pick, and if he is, I would not pick him. I think he's a bit too raw for me. Not that he's not going to be a good player. I just think he's a little raw. And the same thing with Isaiah Jackson. These Kentucky players, the Knicks and Kentucky, CAA. So there's always that connection. He's another one as well that I think, to me, is Mitch 2.0. When I look at Isaiah Jackson, I think he has some years to develop, and I don't want to spend a 19th and 21st pick on somebody that needs that much development. I'm a Basie guy, but let me hear what you got to say about Jones and Jackson, and then I'll get into why I'm a Basie guy.
Um, I mean,
I mean, girl.
you basically gonna you basically gonna say the same thing. Well, I'm saying the same thing as you. Out of those three guys, I actually like Basie the most. Um, Out of the whole list that we have, um, Basie's one of two of the players that I think should be in the first round for sure. Where I'm questionable with a lot of the other guys, but the what was it Kai Kai Jones and what's the other one's name?
Isaiah Jackson.
Isaiah Jackson. Um, I think both of them are upside guys. Um, they may be able to come in and do a couple things well and get a couple minutes, but um, if we grab them or if I grab them, it would be based off potential. I think Baisley can
Right,
come in right now immediately and have a role. Like he could be the backup
right.
center right now. I'm not too sure. I think it's going to be more development with the other two.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing with Basie too is he can rim run as well. He can block shots as well, but he can also play in the post. And he
Hmm.
has very soft hands, like around the back. Like he has very good touch when he shoots. He could face up a little bit as well, and he's a good offensive rebounder. I like him. He's in the second round. Now he's not as uber athletic as
Hmm.
Kai Jones or Isaiah Jackson, but he's athletic enough,
Yep.
actually, and he's pretty fluid too. Um, One thing I have to say, I forgot to say about Kai Jackson is Kai Jones. I'm sorry, he can defend on the perimeter. He could defend on the perimeter, and I do like bigs that can kind of switch out and
for
defend
sure.
on the perimeter. He could definitely do that as well. But I do think he's years away. I think Basie can get us some minutes now. I think the knock on him was that he played at Western Kentucky. So if I just pull his stats up again, 17.6 points, 11.6 rebounds, zero point 0.7 assists, zero point 0.4 steals, 3.1 blocks,
Led the nation,
right?
right?
Led the nation in block shots. Um, 59% field goal percentage, but his percentage around the rim is
Mhm.
in, I think it's like over 64, over 65 around the rim. Like he's really good around that rim. And he has 3-point potential at 30.5%. And I think he's a good value in the sense that if it goes the way they say it's going to go, I haven't seen him marked anywhere in the first round. I seen him marked in the second round. So you can still get value at your 19th and 21st pick by getting a shooter. And then in the second round, come away with Basie as a big. I'm happy with that.
I agree. If he's there in the second round, I'm grabbing him. I don't think he's gonna be there. Even though I haven't seen him in the first round mock either. I just feel like some guys everybody wants to be quiet about. You know what I mean? And I think he's one of those guys that a lot of teams are being quiet about, and they don't want to show their hand.
Right. Yeah.
One thing I will say though about Kai Jones, I think he has the potential to be a 3 or 4 or a 5. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, he
if
does.
like I see him, he could be somewhere in that Siakam type player down the line.
Yeah.
He could
Yeah.
be the kid. I don't think he was high on him, but was Christian Woods. He could
Mm,
play that type of role. Like his trajectory is all over the place. Um,
right.
but again, you're gonna have to wait for it.
Right. Right. Let's move to the traditional post players and bruisers, I call them. Now, there's one player that I did not put here. So the traditional post, Dayron Sharp, and again, I believe that the value for the Knicks, if they want a power forward, if they want a big, is in the second round. Dayron Sharp, Luka Garza, and also Alperen Sengun out of Turkey. I didn't put him here for two reasons. One, he's marked anywhere from 7 to 14. So I think he's going to be out of the Knicks range. And also, I think that as good as he is in the post, as good as he is passing out of the post, even, has at least some ability to shoot, his defense is just not something that I think the Knicks would even tolerate if he were to fall. So that's why I didn't put him here. The traditional post would be Dayron Sharp and Luka Garza. I'm not um I mean, I like Dayron in the sense that he's going to give you the offensive rebounds. He's a big body. He's a big body down there. Let me just get this back. Um, he's a big body down there. He has a good motor. He can block shots as well. I just need a little more mobility from that position.
Mhm.
Now, that being said, I like Gaza, and I've seen some videos. Somebody mentioned it in the chat as well. He slimmed down some. He's very good in the post, but he would be a changeup. Like when you put him in, behind whoever's our starting center, he would be a changeup. This is not somebody who's going to defend on the perimeter. This is somebody that can play in the post but can also shoot the three. So he's also a good pick and pop guy
Mhm.
offensively, right? That he could shoot that jumper, he could shoot from the three as well. But defensively, it's going to be a problem. If he's out there on the island with a wing or guard, it's going to be a problem. Um, so I wouldn't any of those two is not somebody I would draft, but I'm interested in your opinion.
Um, I agree with you with what's his name? Day what?
Dayron.
Dayron.
Hmm.
I like what I saw from him, but not where we're positioned. Definitely not where we're positioned in the first. I think we'll have better options at that first pick in the second. Um,
Hmm.
and Garza, I really like as well. He's the other guy that I think won't make it to the second round. I know he's mocked in a lot of second rounds. But I think he's gonna ultimately be a first round pick. Um, but I really like him too. I think I'm not even as concerned with him. All right, he's gonna be a liability in playoff basketball, but he's a guy that
Hmm.
could help us get back to the playoffs, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
I think maybe defensively you would have to use schemes for him because
Right.
he's a legit 7 footer, so he can definitely block shots. He could probably
Hmm.
defend the post, but it's those switch off like you said. Uh,
Hmm.
especially in the playoffs, teams will take advantage of that. But yeah, he's the only other guy I believe from this list that I would take in the first round. So like maybe potentially trading down and picking up an asset or something and grabbing him before the second round.
So you don't think so? Even though Garza had and there's some people in the chat as well that's very high on Garza. So you don't think even though I've seen him marked in the second round. I don't think I've ever seen him in the first, but you think that he could potentially go in the first round?
I do, I do.
Wow.
I mean the reason it might not happen is because of the way the league has changed and what
Hmm.
the big man does nowadays. But if there's a guy
Hmm.
like the Knicks who didn't have any post play, you know what I mean? That was one of the missing holes. Again, he's a guy that could come in and he's gonna play immediately. It's not You're not waiting for him to develop. You're not waiting for him to reach his potential. Um,
Hmm.
he doesn't have the highest ceiling, but his floor is NBA ready.
It is.
So
It is. It is. It is. Yeah. I mean, if you have a center that can hit threes, that's pretty good. Baseline extended as well. He has a good feel for the game as well. So I wouldn't be mad if we can get him in at that 50 pick. I think our 58th pick, but hearing what you're saying, he's not going to last that long. And there's people in the chat as well that's um, very high on him.
see, I wouldn't necessarily pick him 19 or 21. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, unless somehow we know like our rosters already kind of filled out, and that's one of the things
Hmm.
we need. But like if we could potentially pick up another pick or pick up a
Hmm.
future pick and move down to like the end of the
Hmm.
first, I
Hmm.
take a chance on him.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think I think he's gonna get picked before the second round.
Yeah. So the chat is
Yeah,
split.
Jokic 3.0.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far. Like I wasn't gonna say that. I'm
Wouldn't
reading
go
that,
that far. Right.
but that's some like the same deficiencies he has is the same things they said about Jokic coming in.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Um Sherwin M said Garza will be undrafted, and Big Blue 56 said Garza is a stud. So like that's like from a
wow.
stud to undrafted. That's wow. Listen, there were some mock drafts that had him in the 50s.
Mm.
There were some mock drafts that had him in the 50s. Um, Alternately, Gaza faced double and triple teams every night and averaged 24 points and 44% from three. He could shoot it now. He could shoot it. And like you said, defensively, you would have to scheme. You would have to scheme for him. All right, let's get into the stretch power forward and center. And there's a player there that I like a lot that you actually put me on to. So let me bring this back up. J.R. Thor, um, 6'10", 205 pounds out of Auburn. He played with Sharif Cooper. He's mocked to go the late first. Like I've seen a few drafts where he was like the last pick in the first round. Um, and also the second round. 9.4 points, 5 rebounds, almost an assist a game, almost a steal a game, 1.4 blocks a game. Didn't shoot very well, 44% from three, 30%. But this guy is a stretch big, power forward or center, put the ball on the floor, can shoot, doesn't shoot that great, but I mean, I didn't shoot efficiently enough, but can shoot it. And Isaiah Todd, 6'10", 210 pounds out of G League Ignite. I've only seen him mocked in the second round. Now, this is somebody who played against men, right?
Mm-hmm.
He averaged 12.3 points, 5 rebounds, almost an assist a game, half a steal, zero point 0.7 blocks, shot 43.7%, so wasn't very efficient. And part of that was his shot selection as well, but shot 36.2% from the NBA three-point line, right? The G League three-point line is the same as the NBA three-point line. And what I'm very encouraged about, 82.4% from
Free throw.
the line, right? So that tells me that he has a decent touch and that his shooting would get better, probably with better um, shots. Any thoughts on any one of those?
Todd is actually my target at 30. Where we at 31? Yeah,
32.
32. Yeah, that's my target. Um, I hope he's still there. Um, he could shoot the ball. He's already played within the NBA guidelines and rules and everything else. Um, he may have been a little bit overshadowed. Um, Meaning when I say not overshadowed, but he played with guys that were stars, if you will. You know what I mean? A couple of lottery selections on his team. So he already knows how to come in and play a role and not necessarily think that it's gonna revolve around him. Um,
Right.
a lot of upside. I think the biggest weakness right now is his weakness, like his lack of strength. He's gonna have to
Hmm.
put on some weight. But I compare him. I put him in that same boat as the Kai Jones, the Dayrons. Um, but I just like it. I like his upside, and I like what he could do right now, which is rebound the ball. I'm sorry, shoot the ball, defend, and play a role. Who else you had on that slide with him?
JT Thor out of Auburn.
Yeah,
He's pretty
I,
raw to me,
I,
a
yeah.
lefty.
hmm I
Yeah.
looked him up. He got, but again, that's a guy that at 32, 58, it's about potential. I wouldn't mind looking at that, like looking
Hmm.
at him. Um,
Hmm.
but again, it's more about potential than being able to contribute right away.
Right. Right. What I do like about him, though, he could defend in space.
Yep,
And I'm always partial to bigs that can defend in
yep.
space, that can
Just
switch go in and
like
can
Kai Jones.
right, right, and can play. Even if you're just playing a guard or a wing, just for a few seconds, until the guard that's picked off can
Recovers.
recover. Um, I like that, and he could do that. He didn't shoot that well from the three, but if he gets better at that, he would be capable of stretching the floor. So he's raw, but he has a good upside. But I'm with you. I like Isaiah Todd. I like this guy. If we can get him in the top of the second round, I don't think he'll be there in the 50s when we pick. I think it's 58. Um, you know, I would take him, and he's going to need some development as well. Shout out to the chat. I know you guys mentioned a lot of other centers in the second round, and you're absolutely right. I just couldn't cover everybody. But shout out for those who are talking about Jericho Sims. I will check him out as well. I have some more work to do for the draft party next Thursday. So I will definitely um, um, check him out. And then lastly, and then we can make our picks. And then that'll be it. Lastly, I want to talk about another fave of mine. And that would be, let me pull it up one more time. Usman Garuba, out of Spain, 6'8", but with a 7'2" or 7'3" wingspan. So he could play. He plays bigger than he actually is. And I've seen him a lot. Um, um, and people listing him as a center. I mean, at 6'8", you would think that's more power forward
Mm-hmm.
height. But with his length, there are people saying that he could play, that he can actually play center. I've seen him marked as high as 11. I've seen him marked as low as 19. And that asterisk means there's been a few mock drafts where I have seen him as the Knicks pick. Now, only 4.7 points, 4.6 rebounds, one almost an assist, almost an steal, half a block, 47.1% field goal, not a good three-point shooter or shooter at all, and we'll talk more about this. 65.9% from the free throws. But this is his stats for 17 minutes a game, right? He's 19 years old. He's been playing professionally since 14. And I think maybe 2 years ago, he started playing in the best league behind the United States, um, and basically held his own with
Real Madrid, right?
with grown men. Say that again.
He's in Real Madrid, right?
Real Madrid with real men. And when you watch him play, I remember I may be dating myself, but I remember when I first saw Lawrence Taylor, like I turned on the TV and I was watching the Giants, and this guy was just like all over the place. Like this is my first time actually, watching football. I just turned on the TV, and he just seemed like he didn't belong. He just seemed like everybody else was in slow motion, and he was just all over the place. That's what I see when I see Usman Garuba. When you watch him play, he's just all over the place. He has an incredible motor, an incredible feel for the game. Um, he boxes out. He gets good position. He passes the ball as well. He has a good feel for the game. I really, really, really like this kid, man. What's your thoughts on him? And the chat? What's your Eddie C, my fave of the bunch? What do you think,
Oh,
Tone?
um, I'm like torn because again, he's 19. That defense, like you have it. What's your nickname for him?
Defensive demon.
The defensive demon. I call him. I just call him the motor because like that. This guy or the Energizer Bunny. This guy is putting effort in all day long. He's not trying to let you get any shot. You don't even have to be in his vicinity because he's chasing you down.
Correct.
He's running you down. He's blocking threes. He's blocking twos. He's blocking dunks.
Right.
So but that's where I'm leery at 19 or 21, depending on if we know the rest of our roster being filled in other places, then yeah, you could take a risk on this guy because again, it's all about potential. Now he could come in and probably play and give you the same minutes he's playing overseas and give you that same production in the NBA right now. But my question is, not only in the future, well, whether it's now or in the future, can he give you more than that? And what more is he gonna give you?
Offensively, you mean?
Um, I mean, no. Well, offensively, is the defense gonna even improve even more than what it is? Because at best case scenario, he could be a Draymond Green. You know what I mean? Like better defensively as far as like rim protection, but making the right play. You said guarding multiple positions, switching off on the perimeter. He gets steals with his long arms. Like he has all the tools defensively, and even with his height at 6'8", it's not a deterrent because
Right.
he plays like he's 7 foot. Um, but I don't know what we get offensively from him at all.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get much from him offensively. And as a matter of fact, when you see his shooting form is not great. Like it's coming off his hand almost like a
Side,
like on with a twist. Yeah, so I'm not sure how development goes over that, like over
but
there.
he's 19. That's the difference. You know what I mean? Like
19.
at 19, I know us Knicks fans don't like letting guys develop. You know, we want them at their full potential from their rookie year on. If we're gonna give this guy time to develop and let him just mature naturally, I'm all for it.
Right.
But we can't rush this guy. We can't draft him and then expect him to give you 15 or even 10 points.
No.
You know what I mean? So
But what he can give you, he's gonna score off of offensive rebounds. Now, I don't know how much running we're gonna do, you know, but he can also score out of the pick and roll, not the pick and pop, but out of the pick and roll, he can score out of that. He's a good roll man. Um, as far as that's concerned, he can score that way. He can score in transition. He can score off of offensive rebounds. But this guy, when you watch him, he just knows how to play. He's fundamentally sound. He knows where he's supposed to be, and I think he's somebody that is going to create offense from us, just from the block shots, from his rotation. Sometimes he's not even in the play, and somebody gets beat, and he just comes out of nowhere to rotate in, to make a play on the ball. If he can get any semblance of a jump shot, and I have some concerns because he's been playing professionally since 14, and his not just the jump shot, his form is looking
mhm.
like that. You know, did people try to help him fix it? It's not fixable. Like, what's going on with that? But this is somebody for the Knicks. If I'm not saying we should trade Obi, but just say we do, he can get 15 minutes behind Randall. And offensively, we're not going to lose any defensively, excuse me. We're not going to lose anything. Obviously, we will lose something offensively. But if he's out in that second unit with Quickly and Rolls and whoever else, we bring out there, we're not going to need him, um,
Well,
offensively. And he knows how to facilitate in terms of moving the ball.
I will say this: if he's playing the four as a backup behind Randall, uh, we definitely are gonna need a stretch five to play alongside him. Um,
Right.
and
Right.
if so if we could fill out the roster that way, I think that would be a nice combination off the bench. But I mean,
Right.
I see him. I see him playing small ball five. I think we could see him and Randall playing together, unlike Toppin at this particular moment. So I think he definitely could have a role. I just don't know if 19 or 21 is too high for him.
Oh, he's marked higher than that. He
It's
may
surpri-
not. I don't think I I've only seen a few mocks where he falls to 19.
Mm.
Most of them he's taken before.
You know what I want to
I've
see?
seen mocks. Mhm.
Excuse me. I want to see where he's ranked in the top 100, because a lot of times with the mocks are is based off of who's picking at that pick. So I don't know if
No,
that
he's he's
influence.
he's ranked high.
He's in there. I mean, I
He's ranked high.
I'm surprised
He's
that, I
ranked
mean,
high.
that because it's mostly defensive potential. Like, he's probably the best defender or shot
It's
blocker
not even a question.
in the draft. Um,
Right. But it's not even that he's a good defender. He changes the game with his ability to switch, with his motor, with his, like he's not just going to be somebody that's going to come in the game and hold it down defensively. Mm-mm. He's going to be somebody that's going to come in the game and make something happen
happen.
defensively.
You're right.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He,
Um, but I agree with you. If he ever gets any semblance of a jump shot, um, it's over. It's over. But I don't think he's gonna be there for the Knicks at 19. Um, Personally, I think there's more value with the guards, with the Trey Mans, Cooper, who's being marked a little lower than I thought. Um, Duarte, who's moving up the draft boards that we may not be able to get, and Troy Murphy. I think most of the value at 19 and 21 is in the guard wing position. But if all of those guys are gone, I'm
Troy
not mad with
Murphy.
Garuba. That's a steal at 19.
Troy Murphy the third, right? That's he. Is That's his name, Troy Murphy the third.
Troy Murphy the third, the out of Virginia. He's a shooting guard, small forward.
Yeah, I like that kid.
I like him too. He's a
I like
three and
that.
D guy. He can't put it on the floor now. He
Yeah,
cannot put it on the
spot up.
floor, at least just yet. But spot up shooter and that corner, which is where Tibbs likes, offense. Those players get shots from that corner. He's able to shoot there. So all right. So we're gonna make our picks. Just two, just two out of the four, and tell me out of the bigs, if you had to pick two bigs, who would you pick, and at what positions? At what draft picks would you use to draft them?
Uh, um. So I'm gonna try to keep it realistic. Honestly, I'm 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 not as high on the Usman guy as you are,
Hmm.
but
You could pick two second rounders if you want. Then
but if it was a guarantee that Luca was gonna make the second round, and I had to get Usma at 19 or 21 because he's not gonna make the second round, I'd get those two guys. Especially,
you would get
I would get Usma in the first, in one with either 19 or 21, and Luca with 32.
the 32.
And
Yeah, if I had
I say that prefacing
no, go ahead.
prefacing that's if I knew Obi's not gonna be here. Um, and maybe it wouldn't even matter about Obi, but I just think those two together in the second unit would be phenomenal. They make up for each other's weaknesses and strength.
Right.
So I think that would fit perfect for us.
Yeah, I'm torn for the second round. In the first round at 19, like I said, my preference is to get a guard forward. That's my preference. But if you're holding my feet to the fire and telling me I have to get a big in the first round, I'm going with Garuba because he has a high floor, in my opinion. He has a bankable skill. If he gets better on the offensive end, that would be perfect. Um, but his ability to defend out on the perimeter, and I love guys, like I said, that could defend the perimeter. So at 19, if you force me to take a big, it would be him. Now, and that would be over Kai Jones and Isaiah Jackson because Kai Jones went as low as 23 and won draft, one mock draft, which means he would have been there for the Knicks. And Isaiah Jackson has been linked to the Knicks, mocked to the Knicks multiple times. I just think those two guys are a bit too raw for me. Need a little more time, and I'm looking for somebody that can step in right now and give us something, which is why I would pick. If I forced to pick a big at 19, it would be Garuba. I'm torn at the 32nd pick. Um, because again, any of those other guys are second round. So you can get them in the second round. So you don't need to spend, get them with the 21st pick. They should be there at 32. I'm going with Basie or Bassie.
I like him
That's who
too.
I'm going with. Yeah. Yeah. This is somebody that can block shots, rebound. He's a lob threat. He could um, yeah, he has a soft touch, around the basket. He's a gazelle. Well, I don't know about a gazelle, but he's very fast in transition. He really gets down the floor. So if we decide to run, he's a big that would be able to run, and he's a decent offensive rebounder. So at the 32nd pick, if I had to take a big, now I'm high on BJ Boston out of Kentucky for his upside in the second round. But if you force me to take a big, it would be Bassie. Those would be my pick. Garub at 19, Bassie at 32.
I like Bassie too. I think I would take Luca first over him, but I like Bassie too. And I wouldn't if I had to pick a big in both, and Luca's not there. I'd definitely take Bassie and or Usma, in the first round, and Bassie in the second. Because again, same thing. I think they
Right.
would fit each other perfectly next to each other.
Yeah. Somebody is very high on Garza. Movies and stuff. Pick Garza at 19 or 21, not 32. We might lose Garza. You get a project at 32. I don't think Bassie would be a project at 32. I think 19 is too high for Garza, in my opinion. And I definitely wouldn't pick him over um, Trey Mann. I wouldn't pick him over um, Trey Murphy the third, and I would not pick him under Duarte, who I
What
absolutely love, who I feel can step in right now and get buckets for us. Um, Andre Bryant, Knicks need more offensive players. If they draft just defense and not trade for Sexton or Dame, first round exit is the goal for next year. Yeah, we do need um, um, more offense.
but if we
Severance, Bassie will be there at 32. Yep. Alton Lee, Trey Mann at 19. Josh Christopher at 21. It's a little high, but okay. Um, it, a little high as far as in terms of how I've seen him mocked.
where did you see him mock? Because
Trended.
I was wondering about Josh Christopher. Where have you seen him mock Josh Christopher?
I've seen him late first, second,
Because I like him
late
too.
first, and the second round. Yeah. And then he would take Trendon Watford, number 32. Wow, I'm not familiar with him. And Luca Garza at 58.
If he there, hell yeah.
If he's yeah, if he's there. I appreciate you, chat Eddie C. I would take Usman or Sagoon at 19. I don't think Sagoon is going to be there at 19. And I have some concerns about his defense and whether Tibbs would play him, but offensively, he's as polished as they come in the post. And his playmaking skills is very good as well. He's probably the closest to Jokic, Sagan, out of Turkey. But he said he would take them at 19 no matter who's on the board,
Mm,
even Troy Murphy.
mm.
I hear you. Feel very strongly about those two. I feel very strongly about them too. Sagan, I don't know about his fit. Usman, uh, if we take a big, that's my pick. Um, any last words, Tone, before we
I have a question. What's your
get out of
thoughts
here?
on What are your thoughts on Zaire Williams?
He's a boom or bust guy. He's somebody that's been marked really high, like late lottery, and I've also seen him in the second round. He's somebody that if he hits, he's going to be very good. He has a really high ceiling, but he has a low floor
Would
um,
would would you take
as
it?
well. He needs some
Would you
more
take?
development.
Would you take him with one of our first rounders?
No, and he's mocked. That's just me. That's just me. He is mocked. Um, I've seen him in the late lottery. So
Yeah,
there are people who would consider 19 a steal if he makes. I don't think he makes it to 19, but I just think he's raw, and I think that's an upside pick. And I'm just looking for somebody that can contribute now.
yeah, I like him too. I didn't think he was gonna make it to 19, but if he's there,
Mm-mm.
I think I gotta take him. I think I gotta
You
take him.
kind of have to do it,
Yeah, yeah. Cause even like, admittedly, he's had, like, the consensus is he had a bad year. You know what I mean? Like everybody
right?
projected and thought he would have a better year than he did, and the fact that he had a bad year and it really wasn't that bad, like you could still see numerous positives in it. I
Right.
think, sky's the limit for that kid.
Yeah, I think, listen, Stanford was in the middle of the pandemic. I think they were living in hotels for the first part of the season, if not longer. So, yeah, in that context, it's probably hard to develop your game. There's a lot of disruptions. Um, he has high upside, no doubt about it. Um, but I need somebody right now that I know if I put them out there, they can get me some buckets. And that's Diarte, that's Troy Murphy. I like Trey Mann as well.
And it's gonna be interesting, man. I can't wait to the draft party.
One
This
more
this
week.
gonna this gonna be fun. Yes, yes, yes. I can't
One
wait to
more
get
week
out there. Oh man, I'm trying
yeah,
to think of some something special we all could do. Um, whether it's that night or,
at the
like I
draft
said,
party.
yeah, like the maybe
Yeah,
dinner
we'll
dinner
work something
after,
out.
or breakfast in the morning or something. But
Yeah,
I hope to see you guys from the
it's Trey
chat
Murphy.
there.
It is. It's Trey Murphy, not Troy Murphy. You're right.
Okay. But yeah, shout out to the chat. You guys are popping tonight. Let me see what the likes is at. Hit the likes. Oh, you got 150. 150 out of 164. That's a good percentage right there. But still, hit that like on
Appreciate
the way
that.
out. Um,
Yep.
check
Don't
check out
forget to
Knicks and Bruises with me and Steph. We just did an episode a couple days ago, Monday. So go check that out.
yeah, for
Steph,
sure. That was
appreciate
a
you
good show.
having me on as your first male guest. Hopefully we could do this more often.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. If you could come back, let me tell you what we're doing next week, and
Okay.
hopefully we'll have more guests next week. I want to do a roster construction show where you pick the top 12 players for the Knicks, the five starters and the seven people off the bench who would be in your rotation. I'm trying to think right now, should I have salary cap limitations? Um we probably should, you know. Um otherwise we're gonna have Dame, Kawhi, LeBron, everybody on the same team. So we have to
Yeah,
keep
let's
it
let's make
realistic.
it keep it realistic. Yep.
We got to keep it realistic. Um, and in that you would also include who you would draft. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Where and I'm hoping I can get it where we'll have a slide of everybody's picks already. So as you're talking, your slide is up and you can explain why you put this team together the way you did. What do you think they would place in the playoffs? Any challenges, and then we can go back and forth with, you know,
Oh,
critiquing the roster, what we like, what we don't like, in a very respectful manner, of course. Um, but that's next week. Hopefully I could get three guests and it'll be four of us. That should be, as Simkus would say, that would be dope if we're able to do that.
so I
So
mean,
thank you for being on the show. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
right now I was just gonna say I have my whole my whole team, or at least the majority of them. So what I'm gonna
already,
have to
right?
what I'm gonna have to do is reach out to Andy and make sure the numbers fit. Because
Right,
he got
right,
all the capology down, and
right, right. We got
and
a whole
accept.
capologist in the MBK fam.
So yeah, I'll reach out to Andy, make sure all the numbers work out, and I'll give you the information so you could do the slide. I'm definitely with it. This will be Monday at
Yeah.
8, right?
Yes, right. It's a short week to put it together, right? We already Wednesday. It's a short week. So everybody in the chat, appreciate you. Everybody that's not in the chat, that's listening, appreciate you. Those that's gonna watch it later on, appreciate you all. The new Queen's Court, Monday, 8 p.m. I'm opening it up to men and women, right? So if there's any women out there, you want to be on the panel, reach out to us. We would love to have you, but we're opening it up for everybody who wants to be on the show. Hopefully, I'll see you in Atlantic City next week, Thursday, actually at the draft party. Would love to see you. We're gonna do a live podcast, like we said. And Anthony, appreciate you, Josh.
Julio.
Um, Anthony said that he's feeling some kind of way. Anthony, this is new. We just decided to maybe like a week ago to allow men on the panel. So you definitely welcome. Josh, you welcome, especially for that. We're gonna keep it small because you got to explain your team. It's gonna take a lot of time. So it'll probably just be 4 of us. Where you could put what your dream roster, realistic roster for the Knicks next season, including the salary cap, who you would draft. You can have trades in there. If you traded somebody for somebody else, that's fine too. If you want to have trades, free agents, however, that's going to be next week. That is going to be fire. All right. So I'm looking forward um, to that. Other than that, be peaceful, as some would say, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see you next week.
Peace.